we go? This episode of Lords of the Storm is brought to you by our sponsors over at Patreon, where you, yes you, can also support the show. Just head over to patreon.com/Lords of the Storm to become a patron today.
Heroes, gather tribute and earn my favor. What do you say? Are you ready to begin?
Greetings. That was awful. I apologize.
That was so bad.
I tried getting a sounder ready tonight. I was having technical issues, so I had to at least try and get it in there, and I immediately regret trying. But regardless, hello. Greetings, everyone. My name is Greg Gizmozord Parker. You're listening, probably not anymore, to Lords of the Storm episode.
We are off to a wonderful start.
128. 128. The weekly Heroes of the Storm podcast for you, the true Heroes of the Storm. I'm joined tonight, of course, by one more of the Zord Lords, Ryan TBK Zord Reader. Kevin, Mr. Multi-Zord Ellis, is very sick, so we had to... we told him to take the night off. He's like, you know what? No, I want to try it. I can do it. And we said, no, he's still got to work. So he is relaxing tonight. Well, I wouldn't say relaxing. He doesn't feel well. So, wish him good feelings. But we got a good show for you tonight still. BattleNet is back. You can grab some legendary loot here soon. Some interesting organization changes happening in North America. And we get into our Garrosh build for this week's Hero of the Week. But first, TBK, how are you doing?
I'm doing quite well, actually. Much better than Multi, apparently.
Yeah.
Sounds like he was on death's door.
Yeah, he was giving us updates all day of like, I'm on with the doctor. I think he'll be able to make it. And it was getting worse and worse. So.
Yeah, it just got worse all day. It was depressing.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Well,
He'll be okay.
He will. Okay. But if you are watching the video, we do have... I know you guys like his alpaca in the background, so we have the alpaca still here with the Lords of the Storm tonight. But TBK, what have you been up to in gaming this week?
A decent amount of heroes. I've been sticking to quick match for the most part, just trying to finish off a few of my heroes that I needed that were really close to leveling just for some extra loot boxes. I played a bunch of the Brawl this week because it's one of the ones I really like. It's the
Payload
Hanamura Payload Brawl, which I think is like my top 3. It's super, super fun. And I think it seemed like, and I played 3 in a row actually tonight, and I got attack every single time. But it looked like they had actually moved the defense back a little bit.
The spawn
because
point?
I know that was one of the complaints that made a huge advantage for the defenders there at the end, because they just respawn like directly into where you were pushing. Mm-hmm. So I think they moved it back a little bit. Or at least it looked like they did, which is great. And so it's a lot of fun. I love that mode.
Okay.
It's just such a fun one. That's the best thing to come out of the Hanamura was the Hanamura Brawl.
That one I actually have not tried yet. I missed it last time, so I'm gonna definitely have to hop in. Yeah,
we're going to do it in the after show game.
Absolutely, perfect. Which I'm totally down for, because I am still, like ranked. I can play heroes, but ranked play is like out of the question, just because my ping, for whatever reason, it's just heroes. Like, I know my internet connection isn't great, but like there must be some weird, I don't know, server issue to where my location doesn't connect to the Blizzard servers very well. And yeah, so my ping's just kind of unpredictable, so I don't want to take the chance to rank play. So I've just been doing a lot of quick match, and the brawl is probably a good idea to do as well, since that's not like a serious game mode. But on the good news, I have discovered a game that I can stream, and that is Hearthstone. Go figure. Really taxing game on a computer.
Expansion did just come out, so
yeah, and I didn't.
It seems like a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah, and I hadn't played since the Wrath of the Old Gods or whatever. I played like a week into that and then stopped. So hopping back
so
in
you haven't
there.
played for a really long time.
Yeah, like that's like almost a year. Or coming up on it. So my cards I don't have, like I'm not up to date, but I do have enough to run a current deck that's in the meta. And people will hate me. I know some people already do hate me. It is the Pirate Warrior. So it's not the funnest deck in the world. Preferably, I want to be running a Druid at some point, but I got to catch up in cards. But yeah, now I'm not only.
Did you get like the 50 packs or whatever for this?
I got
this
40
expansion. Okay.
And I got like 3 legendaries on top of the one that you get for the prologue. I know this isn't a Hearthstone show. Multi's not here, so I have to talk about Hearthstone for him. The prologue for Icecrown Citadel is incredible.
Cool. I heard good things.
Yeah, it's really good. So the bad thing to come out of this is not only do I hate Garrosh and I'm playing him in Heroes, now I'm playing him in Hearthstone as well. So I just can't get away from him. But let's go ahead and hop on into the show. We'll talk more Garrosh here in a little bit. TBK, what do we have going on as far as the collection update?
So lots, actually. This might be the most we've ever had in a collection update before, potentially. Or it's the on par with the most. Artanis and Thrall are going to be your gem sale. And then we have Crimson Purifier Artanis, Ashen Hellhammer Thrall, Jailbird Tychus. I like that they call that skin Jailbird. Just, I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's just this like big shirtless buff dude.
Yeah, I don't know.
With a minigun. I don't know. Azure Order Master Vala, Spectre Nova, Fel Demonic Tyrael, Woodland Ranger Sylvanas, Raider Maraudin Murden, which, if you don't have this is an amazing skin. It's the Robot Murden skin. Mm-hmm. So pick this up. It's incredible. King Stitches, the Cyber Ram, the Amani Warbear, and the Hunter Fell Saber Demon.
Yeah, the Cyber Ram is
this week.
Sweet.
I think I might even pick that up because I don't think I have that one.
Yeah, and it goes great with the Raider Murden skin. Not necessarily that tint, but
I think they came out in a bundle together, if I'm not mistaken.
Possibly. It makes sense. Ram is the dwarf mount, so
it is
2 mecha things coming out together. Makes sense to me. 4. Oh man, I didn't think about this. So Multi's
you are not prepared.
No. Multi's not here, so I guess I have to do with a free hero rotation this week.
The bar is set very high.
It has.
You could just not shoot for the bar and then just completely like walk under the bar.
Walk under it?
Yeah. And just say no one will judge you.
Okay, that's fair enough. So for the normal rotation this week, we have Jaina, Li Ming, Sonya, the ladies of the Nexus. And then for the men, we got Murden, Nazebo, Raynor, Rhaegar, Tychus, Uther, and Zool. It's not bad choices there. 11th slot for level 5, Tyrande. Level 10, Rexar. 15, Varian. And 20 is Stukov. So this is the first week for Stukov, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is the first time Stukov's been on the free rotation. He's super fun. So if you haven't gotten to try him out, definitely do it. He's really, really good. Other than lacking his healing virus symbols above his ally's head. It's been super annoying. I just wanted to throw that in there because I've been playing with Stukovs this week so far, and it is extremely hard to notice, and I've noticed that my teammates are not clumping together to move the virus around near as often, just because They don't really notice because the heal over time is not super huge. So it's very easy to miss.
Yeah. And that actually makes a lot of sense. I haven't played with the Stu Cub this week, but I've played against a lot, and they have not been very effective as far as like their healing. So, it's a, we'll keep our eye on that still. I know we had a big discussion on it last week about them needing to bring that back, like needing to bring it back.
Yes, please.
So, come on, Blizzard. You can do it. Bring that clutter into the Nexus. Before we get into the news here, just want to give a quick Patreon update. You have been deemed worthy of bearing the Zord title. Welcome to the Zord Lords. JK Zord, welcome to the Zord Lords. Thank you for supporting the show. And you've been supporting the show, so thank you very much for that. And again, if you guys want to support as well, you can do that over at patreon.com/Lords of the Storm. Now let's get on into the news. Lords of the Lane 7 signups go live Friday. What? That's in 2 days.
2 days.
If you are a patron, you should have received the email. If you're a patron of the $5 tier or greater, you should have received your email today to go ahead and get signed up early for that. You have first access. And again, this is our 7th one, so I won't spend too much time on it, but it's 2v2, not hard to find one other person. It's an incredible game style to play. So if you haven't checked it out,
a lot of fun.
Play. And if you don't want to play, if you want to check it out first, we do stream and cast those games. So make sure and hop by the 27th.
Yes, that's
Is that
Sunday.
Right? Yeah.
Noon Pacific.
Noon Pacific.
Noon Pacific.
So, we'll see if we have a new champion. I don't know if our defending champs, 3-time champs, are going to have a team this time around, according to the rumors. So we'll have to check.
According to the rumors.
Yeah.
Rumors say that the returning champs may not be there.
And
we do have an incredible new first place prize that you will get to check out on Friday. So watch the @Lords of the Storm Twitter.
So
because you'll it's really cool.
Mm-hmm. We've always had prizes for first and second place, but these are for first place, at least, is going to be an incredible prize. First of its kind to own them.
First of its kind. Yeah.
So it's really neat, and we'll have more information on that. Other cool goodies that you can get if you're a Twitch Prime member. We've talked about this in the past. It is here. Starting tomorrow, the 17th, so if you're listening to this over iTunes, it's probably live now. You can collect your free legendary loot crates over at the Twitch channel, again, if you are a Prime member. So it will be guaranteed to include at least one legendary item, just like the Overwatch crate. I want your opinion on this real quick. We talked about it a little bit last night in Convert to Raid. I love that they're doing this. But when it comes to Overwatch and Heroes, it's nice to get a free legendary item. But there's so many legendaries that, there's some that I don't really care to have. Would you rather have this, or it be like a lot of other Twitch games to where we would get a Twitch box with like a Twitch banner, maybe like a mount with Twitch symbols on it, maybe a Twitch spray, things like that?
I think I'd rather get the box.
Really?
To be honest. Just having the Twitch stuff in game really doesn't do much for me, just because I don't know, I don't associate necessarily Twitch with Heroes that much, at least to care about using like a Twitch banner or a Twitch emote in game. The HGC stuff makes a lot of sense because that's directly tied to HGC and the teams that are playing in HGC. But I think I'd just rather have the legendary because you've got rerolls, because rerolls do work on the legendary boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And if nothing else, it's 400 shards, which help you to get something else you want directly.
Yeah.
So
I'm really interested in kind of other people's opinions on that as well. So we kind of did the poll last week where we asked questions. So your all's opinions out there, let us know what you think as well. Because again, myself, I'm a sucker for that theme stuff. Like in PUBG, I wear all the Twitch Prime stuff. I think it's just a cool way to show like that you are, you're a Twitch Prime member, that you're supporting, Amazon and Twitch, things like that. But again, I don't mind the legendary loot crate. Free legendary is awesome. Like you said, the 400 shards at least. So that's going to be going through October 10th. So make sure to check that out. And then I believe this will be happening 2 more times in the future.
That's what it looks like. Yeah, that's what it looks like. So just kind of keep an eye. There's that little crown. So what you've got to do is you've got to have an Amazon Prime account. You've got to link your Amazon Prime account with Twitch. And then there's that little crown in the upper right of Twitch when you're logged in. And then if you click that, it has your drop down to show where all your loot is.
Yeah.
And links and stuff.
And there'll be like a claim loot crate. I don't remember how the Overwatch one worked, if it like sent you a code.
It pops up a code for you, and then you just go to your account management page, paste it in, and claim it.
Perfect. So definitely check that out. Also, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Battle.net is back. First and foremost, guys, it is Battle.net. It's not Battle.net. Am I right? Does anybody call it Battle.net? I know, actually, I was listening to
Battle.net.
I was listening to Cavalry before this, and Slambo's calling it Battle.net. It's Battle.net. But regardless, it's good to have that back.
It really never went away. I like the title of this art. The Blizzard revives the Battle.net name, which no one had stopped using.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, yeah, they switched it. Like on my, Toolbarn computer now, it says Blizzard app, which is what they changed it to. But literally every single person, I never heard it called the Blizzard app. It's always been Battle.net.
Yeah.
Why? Doesn't make much sense. I mean, if they would have done Blizzard app in the first place, then that would be the thing.
Sure.
But
it's hard to kill a name that has 20 years of history. You can't just do it. And I don't know why you'd want to do it either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so much brand name recognition within that Battle.net name that it doesn't make any sense to switch it.
Yeah. Well, and they said that they'd been thinking about it, and they agree that people have been connected to Battle.net for years and years, and it's brought people together, so they wanted to go back to it. I think that's part of the reason. I also think Destiny coming to the launcher is another part of the reason, because if you call it the Blizzard app, if you call it Battle.net, it's a little less weird for Destiny to be on there, because it's not a more.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not a Blizzard game. It's a Blizzard Activision game.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't necessarily think that was a good reason to change it or keep it. It should have probably just been kept in the first place, but it's reasonable. It makes sense that Battle.net is more of an encompassing. Oh, we can sneak a few other games on the launcher that aren't necessarily Blizzard games, which I hope we don't see a whole lot more non-Blizzard games on the launcher. Personally, I don't want it to be cluttered by a bunch of non-Blizzardy games.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm hoping this is a one-off.
I don't either necessarily. But so Destiny 2 went on the launcher as of yesterday. It now has the icon. The way it's set up now, there is definitely room below that for more icons. What I'm hoping at some point, because they allow you to customize your launcher with like the order of the games you want, things like that. Mm-hmm. If they do add more, I would hope they add a feature to where you can actually go in and just take something off.
Yeah, because you can't hide, as far as I know.
Correct. Yeah, you cannot right now.
And the Destiny icon is kind of segregated into its own little section below all the actual Blizzard games too. Mm-hmm. So it's not in the listing with the Blizzard games. So I don't know. I hope they keep that extraneous non-Blizzard games light
Yeah.
on the launcher. I don't want it to turn into like a big shop of games like Steam.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what the Battle.net app is.
Yeah.
At least to me.
Yeah, and that makes sense. But I don't know. I'm it's the marketing's working because I had kind of forgotten and I was like, I'll get it when it comes out, but now it's like pre-order now. And now there's things about open beta coming, or not open beta, closed beta, and I'm like,
yeah, on the 24th,
yeah,
I think of August is the beta for the PC. And it's really funny because I bought Destiny 2 with Battle.net credit that I got from WoW Gold.
Oh, man,
because you can buy Destiny 2 with Battle.net credit.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
So if you're big into WoW and you've got a bunch of gold or a bunch of tokens lying around and want to redeem them, you can get Destiny 2 with Battle.net credit.
That's still nuts to me.
It is. It blew my mind. But I got it for WoW Gold. So
yeah,
that was fun.
So I was trying to hold off, but like I see it every day now, and it's like, yeah, well, I'll probably end up getting it before the closed beta so that I can play that. But also coming up here in the news, Gamescom is coming, which will be in Germany from August 22nd through the 26th, which this is where we can potentially expect some big announcements. This is where Warlords of Draenor was announced, I believe. We've gotten some Heroes announcements before. I know people are expecting, some people are thinking that we will get the next Warcraft expansion potentially announced at Gamescom this year, and we're expecting a hero announcement as well. But there's also streamers that are going to be there streaming live. For the Heroes side, it's going to be Chew8, MF Pallytime, Kendrick Swish, Dunk Train, March, Kyberry, Salinity, Solid Jake, and Ferociously Steph, who was Oddish, if you guys didn't know that. If you didn't know that, definitely check her out on her new stuff, which again is Ferociously Steph. So, yeah, I don't know.
So, I would say there's more than a possibility. Because we have to remember, the announcement for Gamescom last year was Machines of War. And out of that, we got 2 maps and 2 heroes and a legendary Kerrigan skin.
Was that just last year?
That was last year.
Wow.
So
I feel like Zarya's been out way longer than that.
Yeah, just a year now. And they're bringing in some big guns. I mean, Kendrick, MF, Pallytime, Chew8, and then, like you said, the rest of the streamer lineup, Dunk Train, Solid Jake. Like, this is a big deal to bring, what is this, like 8 to 10 fairly big hero streamers out to this event. That tells me something big is going to happen, or some things big are going to happen. My personal guess is I'm okay. I'm bringing it here. This is, we can go back to this episode and see if I was horrendously wrong. So Gamescom, I think, is going to be the Kel'Thuzad event.
Really?
That's what I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess Kel'Thuzad, potentially one more hero, and then a new map as well. And here's my reasoning for the new map, right? Not because we can kind of base this on Gamescom last year, because 2 heroes, 2 maps, legendary skin. Sure, we could get. It'd be fairly easy to get another legendary skin or 2, right? That's not super hard thing. We're gonna get almost 100% at least 1 new hero, potentially 2. And so my thinking is Blizzard was okay pulling Hanamura, their brand new map, after only being in the game a few months, because they know they've got another new map coming. That's my reasoning for this, or at least that was a contributing factor to them pulling it completely.
Yeah.
Rather than just pulling it from ranked, because it's one of the, because we don't get a whole lot of maps. We get just a handful of maps a year, right? Hanamura was the very first map we've gotten this year, which means we're probably due for at least one, potentially two more maps sometime this year. So announcing one at Gamescom, where you announced two last time, and then having that ready and getting that in the game in the next, month or so, will kind of is a good replacement for having to take Hanamura out completely for what is admittedly an unspecified period of time.
Yeah. I would be super happy if they did announce a map, because that would show me that the failures with Hanamura, or not failures, issues with Hanamura have not been a deterrence. If they do announce something, they've been working on this far longer than, since Hanamura has been out. It's been in the works for a while.
Maps take a while.
Yeah.
Maps take longer than Heroes.
But
I mean, that's just kind of a given. And they confirmed that.
So I think I would agree that it would make sense that there would have been a plan to announce a map. If they don't, I think it would be because of the issues Hanamura had. Maybe them, and it depends on what the map is. Hanamura was so different as far as map objectives and stuff that issue, if this was kind of along those lines.
Okay. I just had
An epiphany.
Kel'Thuzad with a Kel'Thuzad Machinima launch trailer. Not necessarily like the BlizzCon cinematics, because we'll probably only get one, maybe two of those a year, because we got one with the big launch event, but I can't see them doing like three in the same year, because that's unless those are just so much easier to make that it's not a big deal to have three, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my guess is if they do another one of those, which they probably will, it'll be saved for the BlizzCon reveal, because that just makes sense, right? But the Machines of War had a big Machinima trailer for it. With the Alarak and the Kerrigan and the Zarya on the new map. So my thinking is Kel'Thuzad, Machinima trailer, Warcraft map. Like legitimate Warcraft map.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going with. Putting my money, putting my bets down right now.
What is it?
At least one Warcraft map, potentially two, but at least one Warcraft map, and Kel'Thuzad, and potentially another hero to go along with him.
What is it that is making you think Kel'Thuzad? Is there anything specifically, or is this just a hunch?
Just that Gamescom is such a big event, and Kel'Thuzad has, not that there's necessarily anything super special about him, but he's just been built up by the community so much, and Gamescom proved to be a big event. That this seems like it would be, because it's either this or BlizzCon, right? And in my mind, I see something bigger for BlizzCon.
Deathwing.
Not even necessarily Deathwing, but
a dragon aspect.
That's and this is like going further on, because we'll have a BlizzCon speculation show. But I think there's going to be a Dragonflight announced at BlizzCon, which would make for an epic Heroes cinematic.
Yeah.
In the new cinematic style. But Kel'Thuzad is still a big deal. He's not just a hero you just, toss out there just on one of the regular schedule. You need an event for him. So Gamescom could be that big event for Kel'Thuzad.
Yeah.
And then especially if the map or the two maps or whatever, if there's maps are Warcraft based, which it would kind of go along with it, right? Because you had the Alarak and the StarCraft Machines of War. It was Zarya was there, but it was a very StarCraft themed event because the legendary skin was Kerrigan and stuff. So maybe this is a Warcraft themed event. And because we haven't had that many Warcraft characters, we just had Garrosh come out. But before that, the last like 5 or 6 weren't Warcraft, which is like the longest we've gone without a Warcraft character in forever. And so it just kind of makes sense to me that we're building up to a Warcraft ish style event where we could get a Warcraft map or two, and then you throw Kel'Thuzad in there with this super cool Lich kit, and then who knows, maybe probably a random Overwatch hero because they just like to do that or something.
Yeah.
It's just like it's Warcraft and Overwatch. It's Starcraft and Overwatch. So that's okay. That's it.
And
I have a fully completed. That is my my guess.
I like DK Rise in here saying Terran Mill versus South Shore as a map. So my thought when it came to map was like, okay, maybe they'll do something that's based around Warsong Gulch, like not necessarily
I think
capture the flag, but themed
type map would be super cool.
Yeah, I think it'd be. I think part of me thinks that would be something they test in like a why can't I think of it? Brawl. Yeah, first a mechanic like
potentially.
that. But Terran Mill versus South Shore, that used to have just like epic and insane PvP fights, and that'd be a really cool themed map too. That would make sense lore-wise. So,
I mean, there's a lot of good Warcraft maps you could just pull right off the bat. Arathi Basin, there's those type of mechanics are in Heroes right now. Multiple capture points that tick up points could be a really cool map. Like you said, Warsong Gulch, Altric Valley, where you can summon extra NPCs to push lanes or something like that. Or once you destroy the first set of towers or something, how cool. Okay. We're going off on a tangent here. That's okay. I love it. What if the core for Altric Valley was not just a static core, but it was this general, and you have to fight him?
A moving core.
Well, just in a very tight radius. He would have a very tight leash radius, but it's instead of the core, it's a general or something like that, and maybe he's got champions with him, and taking down a keep will kill a champion or something like that. So if you took down one keep, you could still take the core down, but you'd have to fight these extra NPCs as well or something like that. If you didn't, like, how in AV he's got the generals with him, and you kill the generals by taking down the different towers. Something like that.
That makes sense.
Like I'm just envisioning this map. This is so cool. You can summon NPCs which help to do the pushing. So maybe it's a map where you actually take out more of the buildings kind of naturally, rather than some of the ones where you just push down through one lane or something, which could still be a viable strategy, but then you have to take down other stuff, and the objectives could be resources or something you can use to summon the NPCs or something like there's so much cool potential, I think, with a map like that, and then having the core be the general. Oh, man. See, I'm psyching myself up with like all these things, and they're going to announce something awesome at Gamescom, and you're like, dang, that's not as good as my idea.
I don't even know how to comment anymore, because you have proven yourself to be pretty spot on or close within proximity of your guesses. So like it's blowing my mind. It's like I don't think they're going to go that drastic.
I put a lot of thought.
But
I put a lot of thought into this. But so Blizzard, if you're not doing this yet, please try that out, because in theory that sounds super cool, but maybe in practice it's terrible. I don't know. Maybe release a map editor and I'll figure out how to edit, and we'll throw in together ourselves.
Yes, map editor, BlizzCon.
That would be a nice BlizzCon announcement. Just by the way, little.
Agreed.
Yep.
So again, Gamescom is going to be going on.
You have to guess though, Greg.
What?
You gotta guess. You gotta guess a hero.
I gotta guess a hero.
Yeah, just guess a non-Kel'Thuzad hero.
I haven't put nearly as much thought in this as you have. Who would I like to see? I'm gonna go with a priest. I don't know if that would be Anduin or who is the
Velen?
Yes, Velen.
Either of those would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be completely okay if it turned out to be like a priest, or because I figure Velen is like your classic mega priest, and Anduin would be like your multi-class
Yeah,
priest.
agreed.
I'd be okay with either of those, especially because we don't have any Draenei in yet. So that would kind of finally fulfill the Warcraft races, because they're the only ones we're missing right now.
You don't say that. People are gonna be upset and say Chromie's not a gnome. She's not, but she is. She is.
She's not a dragon. She's not a dragon. That's why I'm going for BlizzCon. We're gonna get a dragon flight, but it's going to be like a legitimate dragon
Yeah.
that is actually a dragon and not just a gnome that pretends to be a dragon. It's not a dragon. It's just a gnome.
Here's
Magic.
a crazy idea. Just for crazy idea's sake and BlizzCon,
Do it.
how I
Do
like
it.
to do crazy
Why not?
heroes.
Why not?
But there's 4 aspects. There's 5 aspects, but Deathwing's one, and then there's 4 others. Correct?
Ysera, Malygos,
Nozadormu, whatever you say
yeah,
that.
Norse Dormu or whatever. Alexstrasza, Deathwing.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's
I think
Deathwing.
it's-
I think Deathwing would be his own hero because he's evil. The other 4 are good, arguably. What if they like to do crazy things? 4 aspects, dragon aspects, that would take a really long time for them to get those all in the game because they're not going to do back to back to back unless they like announced all 4 at BlizzCon.
Oh
What
my
if-
gosh!
What if it
Don't
was
hype me up
one
more.
hero?
That'd
What
be
if
like
it's
my dream?
What if it's one hero that somehow is built in mechanically to where you're swapping between the different aspects for different abilities?
See, but I want all of them
I know.
individually.
I know. I'm just
I
saying.
I want my Alexstrasza damage, Ysera support, and Deathwing tank. It's got to be tank.
And this wouldn't work if Deathwing was involved because they wouldn't be working together. But the other 4 did work together in the Deathwing fight. So I don't know. Maybe it could be some sort of crazy multi-class.
Yeah.
But again, Gamescom is going to be going on August 22nd through 26th. So we'll just have to wait and see as far as what the actual announcements are for that.
I'm super pumped now. I didn't even realize how excited I was.
We just
But
got
I'm super
jacked.
excited now.
So going back to last week's discussion on fantasy and one of the questions that we had emailed into us being, what hero for us, hit fantasy on the head, and then maybe what hero kind of missed the mark. We sent that out on Twitter to get your guys' responses. So just want to go through a couple of those here, or we can go through them. So Ro is saying most hit on the head for him is Ragnaros. We got a lot of those. And least Jaina. He said, why Jaina? I feel like there's more to her than being a frost mage. Hard to explain. So I can get that. There's actually
I
a
can
couple
understand
Jainas.
that.
Mudslide agreed with him on Jaina and Ragnaros.
I
Argy,
agree on the Reg. Reg really feels like Ragnaros. Like, I didn't think they could do it, but with his trait, they just nailed it.
yeah. Argy Hots at Argy Hots. Gul'dan most, Tassadar least. Luke,
We got a lot of Tassadar leasts.
yeah. Luke Edwards, Malthael, and also he agreed at Gul'dan as well. Taylor Wright at Red Lamp said he liked the Butcher rework. Disincentivizes. Wow. Farming minions greatly reward hero kills. Remove safety net for initiating careless engages. Luke Edwards also said before the rework, he would have said Arthas hit fantasy the least, but think the rework spot on. He's good to go now. Got a lot more Malthael Tassadars. Vala and Li Ming spot on for Imziv at Imziv. Let's see here. More Jaina from John. Tass with a side of Misha. And then Big Hat Cowboy Leoric most. It's the first one we'd heard of that. And least Tassadar. The Leoric's a good one. I had never really thought of that.
Leoric is a really good one.
He plays very much like his boss fights in Diablo 3, which they've said is, hard to make that feel just because it's not a PvE aspect. So
I completely agree on the Tassadar. That seems almost universally the response we got the most as the least fantasy realistic hero, I guess.
I don't know StarCraft lore, but I think it was during the who was it? Oh, Garrosh fantasy posts. People were talking about Tassadar not fitting it. Somebody hopped in and was defending Tassadar. I think is comparing him to like something in StarCraft 1 and saying like it was actually spot on, but it was not like the Tassadar that we knew from StarCraft 2. I don't know, but
that's the popular Tassadar.
Yeah,
is the StarCraft 2 Tassadar. So
regardless, Tassadar needs to be a mage, not a support, and they need to change it.
So it's kind of interesting to think about, right? I don't think up to this point they've ever reworked a character so much that like the entirety of the base kit has changed.
Yeah, where they would reclassify.
Yeah, or even I don't think other than maybe one or two deviations that they've actually even changed base abilities. Because we had Sylvanas have an ult change.
Mm-hmm.
And there might have been one or two others, but it's very, very seldom that we see base abilities or ultimates get changed at all.
Yeah.
It's mostly just talents.
Yeah, and I imagine that's one of the reasons that's like almost just completely designing a new hero because changing one ability is going to change every aspect of it. So it would have to be really bad for them to want to not only go in and spend the time to put in that work on a hero that's already in game, but also you run into the risk of they did this with Nova. People were upset when Nova got nerfed heavy. I bought this hero and this hero is no longer what I bought.
Yeah. And from a time sync perspective, it makes more sense for them if it's just like, man, this kit probably would have fit Tassadar better. It makes more sense for them to just put that on another hero.
Yeah.
Rather than basically, I guess, waste a hero slot changing Tassadar completely.
Mm-hmm.
Or whoever.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So that's it for kind of Twitter discussion this week. Again, for next week, let us know your guys' thoughts on the loot boxes, whether you prefer kind of the legendary loot crate we're getting, or if you like how they do with a lot of other games where you actually get like themed items in games. So it would be like a Twitch banner, maybe a mount with Twitch logo, Twitch spray, things like that. Let's go ahead and move on in to the HGC. All right, some interesting stuff happening after the Eastern Clash and going into our bye week here. So TBK, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Some really interesting stuff, actually. First, on the good news side, No Tomorrow has signed on with Space Station Gaming. I do not know anything about them, but they are a sponsor.
Yeah. Do we know if this is like an existing organization or is this like Roll20 where they're a new organization that wanted to get into Heroes?
It looked like, the Twitter account for Space Station Gaming, when I just kind of glanced at it, had several thousand followers. So apparently they've been around a little bit. I'm not exactly sure if this is the only thing they do, if this is kind of like their first foray like Roll20 into esports. But regardless, No Tomorrow must have seen or talked with them and been convinced that it was a mutually beneficial deal for both of them. So they've got sponsored now, which is awesome because their roster is doing really good in phase 2. Like they went from bottom of the heap Crucible to they almost got one of the top 3 spots for the Western Clash.
Yeah. And
like they've been doing really well.
I want to check here real quick. I was trying to look it up, but Twitch started playing nonsense at me. So No Tomorrow, before they had an org, I never actually even checked to look. Did they still have? Could you cheer for No Tomorrow?
Yes, you could cheer for all of them.
So I wonder now how.
I assume the logo will change.
Yeah, so logo will change. I wonder though if contract wise, if like No Tomorrow, those players get all like that portion of their that was cheered to them, or
Yeah,
if to
it's a good
incentivize,
question.
if there's a timeline thing, since they're still in phase 2, if that's going to go, the org is going to get their split as well.
My guess is that up until the point of sponsorship would go to quote No Tomorrow.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Which would be the players specifically, and then anything past the point of sponsorship is now org split. That's my guess.
Yeah.
But this is we're gonna hit a lot of firsts in this first year of League HGC that it's running. We've already hit quite a few firsts,
yes,
and we're just gonna keep hitting those as more things get sponsored and whatnot. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if any of that'll actually come out as to whether or not we'll hear what that contract dealio stuff is, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool that they got sponsored. Speaking of firsts, Naventic disbanded? It sounds like it is. And this would be another first, having an org dropout mid-HGC. So from the looks of things, Naventic, the org, has disbanded. Not Naventic, the HOTS team.
Yes.
Either that or Naventic got bought out and dropped the HOTS team. I don't know. Like, all their Twitter messages were deleted. It's very hard. I have not found very specific information on this, but from the looks of things, and HGC doesn't return for another 2 weeks because this weekend they're taking a break, and then it comes back the next weekend. So from the looks of things, we'll find out officially, I hope, here in the next week or so. But my guess is that Naventic is, as a brand, is gone, but the 5 Naventic players will probably finish out the HGC season, because why wouldn't you? You're under contract and you're getting the money.
Yeah.
So you might as well, finish out the season to get the money. Then you can figure out, do we want to disband? Do we want to try for it if we end up in the Crucible and just try for it again? Do we get another sponsor or whatnot? And so this gives you the opposite problem of what you were asking before. Whereas, okay, now that these people were cheering for Naventic as an org, if they're no more, do they get that money? Or does their disbanding mean that cheer money now just goes straight to the players? And then on top of that, are they going to keep the Naventic banner, spray, and whatnot? Mm-hmm. Or are they going to switch it to, as long as the team stays in, are they going to switch it to whatever new name the team is and whatever new symbol the team uses?
Yeah.
But hey, it's like the exact opposite side of the No Tomorrow story.
Yeah, I can't imagine how much of a headache this is causing for Blizzard to figure out. I'm sure they have stuff in place for these situations. But that's two, like you said, two of the opposite things that are very situational, both happening at once. But it's also,
thankfully they've got some time though.
Yeah.
That it happened between clashes and neither of the teams were in the clashes, and then it doesn't start back up for another week and a half.
It is a little worrisome though, because, and again, there's no solid information yet. According to Reddit, people are saying it looks like Naventic possibly sold the organization, but then, which they haven't made a public announcement yet, but that potentially that organization is dropping the HOTS team as well, which again, we don't know. We don't know if they sold in the first place, and then if they did sell, maybe they're not dropping the HOTS team. But if they do, that's worrisome, because we just started this cheer thing to try and attract new organizations. And to have what we thought was a huge success for that in its first, week as it was live, for an organization to come in by an organization that was involved with HOTS and then not feel it's worth it to still have a HOTS team. If that happens, that's a little worrisome.
Maybe. I would venture to say that Niantic has had a lot of problems beyond this.
No, I'm saying, like, yes, but like if Niantic sold to another esports organization,
Yeah,
if that
and
organization
that's a big if,
had,
right?
yes,
Because we just don't know yet. But yes, I would agree with you that if they did sell to another organization or sold the brand, I mean, if they sold the brand, it's understandable it would be understandable for the new buyer to just drop everything and start from scratch. Because I think the HOTS team was Niantic's only team, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was the only thing they have currently under their banner.
Yeah.
So I don't know. As an organization, it was kind of shaky anyways. But like you said, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out when HGC Phase 2 starts back up, because there's a lot of unknowns and there's a lot of cheering that's already been done. And hopefully they really built their contingencies in.
All I know is if Niantic is gone, I really hope they go back to Bob Ross Fan Club, because I want a spray and a banner
That'd
with
be
a Bob
amazing.
Ross on it.
Oh my gosh. That'd be so good. That'd be worth it alone.
Yeah.
For that. So moving on from those, the HGC Eastern Clash happened this last weekend. There was a lot of good games. I didn't get to catch too much of it live because it was very late at night and I was gone half the weekend. But there were some really good sets. Definitely go check out the VODs, especially the L5 MVP Black set, which ended up being the finals.
Mm-hmm.
MVP Black looked insanely good, but I tell you, they really L5 just really came back, went crazy, and L5 ended up winning the whole thing. And so this was really good to see after the midseason brawl, to be completely honest, because there was a lot of iffiness on the Korean side. It was very much on the China and Korean side, like, because some big players left, one or two big players came back, but Europe has just looked so good. Everyone was kind of wondering, is the Eastern side going to keep up? And we saw some really big plays from some of these big teams, and saw the teams look to be in very good form again.
Wasn't it L5 that lost after the midseason brawl? Nachojin and one other player retired from Heroes.
A few players, yeah.
Yeah, so that
Then I think Rich came back to MVP Black.
Yeah, so that's two players from the BlizzCon champs last year that didn't win the midseason brawl, lost two people, and then for them to be able to pick up two more people, get back in order this quickly to win the Eastern Clash, that's a really, really good sign.
That's very solid.
So
yeah, that I think that means our BlizzCon should be pretty competitive.
Yeah,
which is what I care about, because mid-season brawl was not only the best like tournament structure as far as production and whatnot, it was probably also the most competitive Heroes tournament we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was amazing. Western Clash, not so much, unfortunately. But that kind of leads into the next thing, because the Heroes Esports site put up this awesome article called "What We Learned from the Clashes," and so they kind of run through a few different things. Fnatic are probably the best team in the world. I think that's, at this point, they are the team to beat.
Mm-hmm.
They won the midseason brawl. They won the Western Clash. They are the undisputed world champions right now. Like, very good. But Team Expert moving up the food chain. Team Expert are looking really solid against everybody but Fnatic. So it's really cool just to see these incredible. There's like a top 4 or 5 European teams right now. Like they are going crazy as far as competitiveness within their region. North America is close to a breakout performance. Both Team Freedom and Gale Force put up admirable fights at the Western Clash against Team Expert and Liquid, taking a total of 5 battlegrounds to the European opponents at this event. This was on the heels of Roll20 Esports and Tempo Storm's promising performance against MVP Black and Dignitas at the midseason brawl. The fact remains that no North American team has beaten a European team in a full series since April 2nd, 2016.
Don't laugh, TBK.
Oh, that hurts.
Gosh.
It just hurts so much because I didn't read that paragraph before we started podcasting. And so to read it now, it just sounds bad. And that's when Cloud9 beat My Insanity, the current Team Liquid roster, 2-1 at the group stage of the Spring Championship. So, North America, you got this. Maybe.
Yeah.
I hope. And I completely agree with this. Tempo Storm did not look so hot this last Western Clash, but both Gale Force and Team Freedom had some really good opportunities and some really good play. And so hopefully if they can hone that a little bit, they can make some things happen.
I agree.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, at this point, it is Fnatic's BlizzCon to lose, I think. If anyone's going to beat them, it will be, I think, L5 or MVP Black. I don't think North America's there yet to put in a running for the championship. I do think there are potentially a few teams like Gale Force or even Team Freedom to show well at BlizzCon and hopefully potentially place higher than a North American team did last year. What did we get last year? Fourth?
Fourth, maybe.
Yeah.
I think at this point, North America needs to be the main thing North America needs to set their sights on is to take series from Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's basically the next mountain you need to cross.
Yeah.
Is all these European teams are extremely good.
Mm-hmm.
And so taking series from these European teams will be a huge step towards where we need to go. Do I think North America will be in the running for winning BlizzCon? I just haven't seen it.
Yeah. And it's one of those interesting things for Europe. Like if more teams were allowed in from each region, Europe could potentially have 3 teams in the top 5, I think. But since it is just, 2 from each, it's hard to compare. While L5 and MVP Black looked good in the Eastern Clash, it's hard to compare that to the Western side now just because they do have new players and things have swapped around. So that's always exciting to see them come head to head. But yeah, we'll just kind of have to wait it out.
Yep, for sure. And then finally, like I said, they're taking this weekend off. A much needed break after all the clashes. And I'm sure the casters are completely wiped, especially Gilly, Dread, Trixler, and Kaldor, who were at both the Western and Eastern clashes, flew around the world, basically. So nothing this week, but next week, we'll start things back off. We will be on the Garage patch with Garage enabled. So this is going to be that's going to be a week to watch for sure, because I feel like he's going to make his way into some drafts by that point.
Yes. And he is feeling better after having another week to play on him. He's definitely feeling better as a solo warrior. There just are still some issues. I think that, it's going to work better in competitive scene. Like we talked last week, not having that initiation, needing somebody else to help him out with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But speaking of Garrosh, let's go ahead and hop into him for this week's Hero of the Week.
Hero of the Week.
All right, so Garrosh, we have talked a lot about him over these last 2 weeks, so we don't really need to get into our impressions or anything like that anymore. We can kind of hop straight into the build here. Real quick, I'll just go over a brief overview of his abilities again. His trait is Armor Up, 1 armor for every 2% of maximum health missing he gains. Groundbreaker Q, that is the conal AoE in front of him that if you hit on the edge pulls towards Garrosh. W is Bloodthirst, heals for 10% of Garrosh's missing health, increased 100% against heroes. E is Wrecking Ball, throw nearby enemy hero or minion or mercenary to target location. And then heroic abilities Warlord's Challenge, which is the AoE Taunt, and Decimate, which is a AoE 30% slow for 1.5 seconds, and a little bit of damage there. So TBK, you kind of decided on this build here. This is pretty typical of what you would see, I think, on Hot Slogs right now. It seems to be a pretty strong build of what people have settled into. There are a lot of situational things, which is good.
He's very situational in most tiers, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a very strong, very solid talent tree design.
Yeah. So without further ado, I guess we'll go ahead and hop on into it. So for level 1 here, what are we going to be going with?
And see, this is a tough one, right? For this build, we're gonna go Warbreaker, which is his Q talent. It's a questing talent. You pull heroes with Groundbreaker. After pulling 5 heroes, Groundbreaker deals an additional 150 damage over 3 seconds to heroes. And after you pull 15 heroes, you reduce Groundbreaker's cooldown by 3 seconds, which would make it a 5-second cooldown.
Yeah.
Which can be very strong once you talent into it later. The big talent on this tier that has gotten a lot of talk is Body Check, right? This is his 1 ability, which basically gives you a 4th basic ability. You activate to deal 111 damage to a target enemy and slow them by 30% for 2 seconds. It's increased by 200% of Armor Up's current bonus, and the slow amount is increased by 30% if Armor Up's bonus is above 25. So this... I don't know. It's okay. It's not bad. It does have its own specific talents you can take at certain tiers, and it is probably the recommended choice if you have a strong target that you want to destroy their healing with, since it's the only thing that allows him to get the healing reduction talent at level 7. The Unrivaled Strength is also really fun because it increases Wrecking Ball's throw range by 20% and an extra 100% damage. So you can actually throw to some pretty ridiculous places with that. But we're just going Warbreaker here because it will synergize later in really helping his survivability and his CC potential once he's in the fray.
Yeah. And I do agree with that. The damage and stuff is nice, but it's really... getting that cooldown to 5 seconds is a huge payoff in the long run when it comes to solo warriors.
Big deal.
For level 4 here, we're going Thirst for Battle. This is where basic attacks against heroes reduce the cooldown of Bloodthirst by 2 seconds. This is really nice because, again, Bloodthirst is one of your self-sustain healing. So when you're in the fray there, getting off those auto attacks, you are obviously, getting more healing. Which is just nice.
Just hit things, more healing.
Yes.
It's about as simple as you can get.
And again, it is just important to mention again that Bloodthirst, you heal more for the less health you have. It is 10% of your missing health. So spamming it at, it's not going to be something you use to top yourself off going into a team fight or anything like that. So save it for when you need it. Level 7?
Level 7 is literally the biggest situational talent tier, I think, in the entire game. Like, this gives you a way to deal with basically anything. Intimidation, which is his Groundbreaker Q. Groundbreaker reduces attack speed. Groundbreaker reduces the attack speed of heroes hit by 40% for 4 seconds. So, you know that AoE cone? Boom. Hit heroes inside of it, 40% attack speed reduction.
This
Up
Rex
against
Butcher.
a lot of up against a lot of auto attacks, up against a butcher, bam. This thing just owns him. Brute force, and this is the one I talked about. You have to have taken body check to get this. So enemies hit by body check receive 50% reduced healing for 4 seconds. Like, this talent alone in certain situations can make it worth taking body check at 1 for no other reason besides this. If there's a target, if like the enemy team's got a double support comp and it's all built around keeping that Vala up, and Vala is like your only main damage dealer, or keeping that Gray Mane up or something like that, this can absolutely wreck those comps. 50% reduced healing for 4 seconds is insane. And allows the blow up time. Oppressor, this is basic attacks. Basic attacks against heroes reduce the target's spell power by 40% for 2.5 seconds. So he's got attack speed slow, he's got spell power reduction, he's got healing reduction, and oh yeah, into the fray. He's got throw your allies around. Activate to throw a nearby out, and this is cool because this is on its own separate button. This will go up top as your number 1 or number 2, depending on if you took body check or not. And it's on a completely separate cooldown from your Wrecking Ball, which is pretty crazy. I don't think anybody expected that.
Yeah.
From the offset. But you activate to throw a nearby ally, grant them 25 armor for 3 seconds. Deals some damage upon impact and slows them for 2.5 seconds. And while in flight, allied heroes are unstoppable. So this is basically a ally version of the old Muradin Dwarf Toss. And it can be super good in coordinated teams.
I think they need to, and they've never done this before, I think they need to change the name of this talent for when you're in solo queue and change it to Survival of the Fittest, because when I use it, it is, I'm going to die. Here, have this person instead. I said,
Oh, dang, it's not a here, get to safety, friend.
no, it's, I'm going to die.
Have this dude.
Yeah, it's like, if you're being chased down by a lion, you don't have to be faster than the lion. You just got to be faster, not the slowest person in your group.
Yep.
So, but no.
Screw you, Jaina.
Yeah, it's like Lucio has rollerblades. He has a good chance of getting out, man. You got a better chance than I do. See ya. But no. So in reality, in quick match, most of the time, what I do end up going is intimidation, just for reducing the attack speed. Oppressor is really good if you can. It depends on the casters, though. Like Li Ming and stuff, that's going to be really hard for that to be effective on her. It can be okay against Kel'Thas because
Kel'Thas, Gul'dan.
Yeah, Gul'dan.
They don't have high mobility.
Yes.
Much.
And you need to, be good with your Groundbreaker to get them pulled in to start getting that damage off. But those are two really good things, as well as, TVK mentioned the brute force. Level 10 here. This is going to be situational as well.
Which is surprising.
Yes, I thought that Warlord's Challenge was just going to be a no-brainer, take the cake every time. I've picked it once. I most of the time pick up Decimate for the slow. The slow is incredible for the 3 charges you get in the low cooldown. It can provide excellent peel. It can secure kills. And the range for Warlord's Challenge just really isn't that wide. You really have to be up in the fray. It is.
Because with Varian, the reason his is so powerful is because you charge in and you click taunt. Whereas this, they have to be around you in this very. It's probably about half the circle of Condemn from Johanna.
Yeah.
It's probably about half that. And so it's very easy for you to hit it early or hit it when they're slightly out of range, because you have to be right up in the middle of all of them. And being an everybody taunt and everybody hitting you at the same time is not necessarily good, because with Varian, you very much key your target, right? Yeah. Because you hit level 10, you go tank warrior, you do the charge in, people know, okay, Varian's charging in, most likely taunt's going to follow up on that squishy hero. With Garrosh, you don't have the initiation, so you're already in the middle of the fray. When you taunt, people have a much smaller window to react to that taunt than they do with the setup that Varian gives you. Mm-hmm. And so that makes it much less powerful unless you're in a team that is a coordinated team environment, which it'll probably be a lot stronger. But especially for quick match, for unranked, when you're not in comms, it loses a lot of its value.
It does. And, if really, whenever you taunt somebody with Variant, like it's a nuke blow up target, the taunt isn't as long as, like, say, this isn't a mosh pit to where you're going to have time to kill a whole team. So really all this does, if you taunt like more than 2 people, is it does a lot of damage to you. And I found a lot of times if I get a multi-person taunt, a lot of we'll get a kill, but I die a lot of the time too, just because they are all hitting me instead of trying to run or anything like that. And then when they come out of the taunt, most of them are still alive. So the best ways I have found to use this are, one, if you're going body check, it's great because it's much easier to at least get in there on one person. But it goes great with the Groundbreaker to pull somebody in. And then even if you go Groundbreaker or Wrecking Ball to throw somebody back and they're a tankier person, if they're about to escape, then you can use that taunt to kind of secure that kill. So even though it is an AoE taunt and it's a little bit longer cooldown than Varian's charge, I pretty much use it for like a single person taunt still to secure a kill instead of a multi-team lockdown. It's just a little bit harder taunt to use. Well, quite a bit harder taunt to use.
No, I agree. I use the taunt as a follow-up to Wrecking Ball to make sure that I get Wrecking Ball off on who I want. But yeah, no, it's a very different type of. It's the same mechanic, but it's very different execution than Varians.
Yeah. And then again, Decimate, like if you guys haven't tried it, it's a great ability. Not a ton of damage, but you can, especially if you're going Warbreaker and you're pulling people in, that will rack up quite a damage especially once it's on 5-second cooldown. Keep them slowed, keep pulling them in. You can melt somebody down.
Yeah, and remember, it's 3 charges, and every hero you hit reduces the cooldown by 1 second, and I think they're only 8-second recharge.
Yeah,
or charge cooldowns. So you can have that up almost constantly as a different thing, and 30% for a second and a half slow is really nice.
Yeah,
especially if you're chasing somebody down.
And it's something you really can spam because Garrosh really does not have mana issues, like, at all, hardly.
Not really.
Let's go to level 13. What are we going with?
Level 13 is the payoff to Warbreaker. It's called Defensive Measures, and pulling a hero with Groundbreaker grants Garrosh a 350 shield for 6 seconds. And this is a really big deal because Garrosh can be a little bit on the squishier side, especially when you're dealing with burst. And so if you can get good with that Q, you can pretty much kite people around and constantly grab that shield every 5 seconds during a fight, and that just adds so much to your sustain. It's incredible. If you did go a different talent than Warbreaker at level 1, then Double Up can do kind of the same thing for you. This allows your Armor Up trait to be activated to increase the armor bonus by 100% for 3 seconds. It's got a 40-second cooldown. So basically, it's kind of like a hardened shield type thing, almost on just a 40-second cooldown, but based on how much armor you have. So if you're missing, 25% health or something, then you'll get 25-ish armor out of it. If you're losing 50% health, you'll get 50 armor out of it. So it can be a very strong thing, and it's nice because it's inactivatable, so you can choose when to use it, and it lasts for 3 seconds, which is a decent period of time. So that can kind of do the same thing as Defensive Measures does if you didn't go the Warbreaker talent.
Yeah. I agree. 16 here. This is going to be Earth Shaker. Excuse me. So Earth Shaker is... Why is this? There we go. Come on, Google Chrome. There.
Wrecking Ball
Yes,
Stun.
Wrecking Ball Stun stuns enemies near impact for 0.75 seconds. So this is nice. Obviously, stuns are cool, but this also kind of gives you another use for Wrecking Ball. Do we know, does this work with the Into the Fray? I never tried it. I wouldn't think so
don't think
because
it
it's
does,
not actually
because it's
Wrecking
a
Ball.
separate ability. Yeah.
So this is useful for in those, like if you just get into a mess in team fights, if you're not, throwing an enemy behind you is great for picking people off. It can be good in team fights too, to throw a squishy in the back. But if you're really up in the stuff, you don't necessarily have to throw somebody to the back. You can throw it in the group. And then that's a nice little 0.75 stun there.
Yeah. And this actually can make throwing minions worthwhile.
Yeah.
Because you can actually be chasing somebody down or chasing somebody through a minion wave. Who cares if you don't hit them? Toss a minion, boom, 0.75 second stun, which can line you up perfectly to get a Groundbreaker pull.
Mm-hmm. I actually hadn't even thought about that. That is throwing minions. That's great.
Yeah, because now the minions not only do some damage, but there's a stun component too. So who you throw doesn't matter quite as much. Because if I was chasing somebody and I would still probably throw them behind me if I had the opportunity. But if you're chasing through a minion wave or through a lane, it's very, very hard to get Warbreaker on the target you really want. And so in those situations, it's just like, well, I've got a minion here. Woo! And then minion hits the dude, does some damage to him, stuns him.
Yeah. All right. And then finally, level 20.
So level 20, and this is one of the reasons why Decimate is so freaking awesome. It's for the level 20, called Deadly Calm. Heroes hit by Decimate deal 20% less damage for 3 seconds. And this is pretty crazy because you got to remember, Decimate's a decent AoE around you. And it gives a slow. And its cooldown is reduced per hero you hit. And you have 3 charges of it. This is pretty crazy. This is like giving 20 armor to your entire team.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on who you hit. It's pretty nuts. It's an extremely strong upgrade. Titanic Might, I don't like. I actually don't like this at all because Garrosh is all about, and I talked about this last week, I think he's all about trying to get people off on their own, picking people off. The whole picking off the weakling of the herd type thing. And Titanic Might makes your Wrecking Ball throw 2 enemies. And so I almost never want to throw 2 people back. I always want to isolate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not a huge fan of that talent. If you did go body check, there's an inner rage you can get, which is kind of cool because it gives you an extra charge of body check. And its cooldown recharges 100% faster, while armor ups bonus is at above 25 or more. So if you're at half health, or half health or less, it'll recharge 100% faster. So that's
I-
pretty good. Death Wish is okay. It's it's very hard to pull off because this is the AoE taunt thing, right? It does increase the duration by 0.5 seconds, so it's a 2-second AoE taunt, which is good, right? And if an enemy hero is killed while affected by it, its cooldown is reduced by 45 seconds, which means you would have a 5-second AoE taunt.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds amazing. It sounds completely broken. It just doesn't happen very often.
It's not as bad if you're still, if you use it on like a wrecking ball target to finish them off, to secure kills late game. It can, like, you can kind of snowball it if you're able to get the pickoffs. And this is my issue with this tier. So I mean, I enjoy both the heroic modifiers, but like you said, Titanic Might is not great. That ruins the purpose of wrecking ball. And then you can only pick the other one if you went body check. I almost think that on this tier, they need a 5th talent, which I don't think we've ever had before. Or else
just because the way body check works.
Yes, with the way body check works, there needs to be some sort of other modifier.
Because in theory, you could only have one option.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to take Titanic Might, which most of the time you probably won't.
Or even, I don't know if it'd be strong enough, but even like maybe if you didn't take body check, giving you the option again at 20.
Maybe.
I don't know. But yeah, if you went Decimate, there's pretty much no reason not to modify that.
Yeah, I think Decimate is the strongest of the 20 talents. The Decimate upgrade is the strongest of the 20 talents.
It's
most
pretty
situations.
insane. Pretty darn insane.
Yeah.
So that's it for the build here. What are some tips that we can give for people just trying out Garrosh or have been struggling with him as a solo tank? For me, I guess my number one thing is going to be practicing and being able to land your Groundbreakers to, one, complete that quest as quick as you can, and two, that really helps you be able to single out people for Wrecking Ball to get those kills. And then along with that is to kind of try and be unpredictable with them, because everyone knows if you're a Garrosh, this is what they know what you're going to be trying to do. Like it's no secret.
Yeah.
That if they see you walking towards them,
out by now.
yeah, if they see you walking towards them, like they know what's up. So I've kind of, a little bit of trying to surprise people from bushes, checking bushes with it. I have found there's a ton of people that hide in bushes on the side of the lane, not expecting you to Groundbreaker into it. And then as well, kind of just like bluffing a Groundbreaker. Typically you'll see a lot of people, the only time they're going to walk towards an enemy is if Groundbreaker's off cooldown and you're going to cast it. But it's okay to walk towards them, kind of come back and then turn back on them. And kind of a counter tip, I guess I would have towards Garrosh, kind of along the same lines, is if you're playing against a Garrosh and you're running away and you're within range of Groundbreaker, don't just keep running, because that makes it really easy for him to adjust to it to make you land on the tip. Like it's okay to run a little bit towards him, especially if you're in a wave of minions.
Duck and weave.
Because getting hit by the just the damage part of that ability is not that bad. TPK, what do you got?
As a Garrosh player, don't try to use Wrecking Ball in a minion wave. 90% of the time, it's not going to do what you want it to do.
Yeah, you got to be. Even if you pull somebody in with Groundbreaker, it'll throw a minion.
Yeah, if you're within enemy minions at all, 90% of the time, it's not going to do what you want it to do. So just be cognizant of that, so that you don't get mad or waste your cooldown, because it is a fairly long cooldown, and not have it when you get out of the minion wave or when it's cleared. Garrosh cannot clear minion waves fast at all. He's a very slow wave clear. So try to be with at least one other person from your team. You should never really be solo laning with Garrosh for the most part, unless you're forced to, because you'll waste a lot of his potential that way. For Wrecking Ball, you do not have to throw people back the maximum range every time. In fact, sometimes it is much better for you to just throw them slightly behind you rather than too far back. Because I've seen Garrosh's actually get a nice throw them too far back, and actually allow them an escape because the team now has to move too much to try and get to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that splits your team as well.
Especially if you're going, running body check.
Yeah. So you got to be careful about that because, you want to be able to ideally get good at body blocking. You throw the dude right behind you. Now you can body block, you can body check, and the rest of your team, who's most likely very close to you if they're melee, can collapse on that person rather than you throwing them back. And then if the person or two who are with you are melee, now they have to run all the way to your Wrecking Ball location. You have no fast way to get over to where you threw your Wrecking Ball. So just be mindful of that. And whenever you can get a toss across a wall, just do it. It's fun. So much fun. People are getting wise to it already though. So it's getting much harder to get the initial throwback, because people are playing more carefully, but it is a lot of fun if you can pull it off.
If you got a Stitches or a why can't I think of the Protoss?
Diablo?
No, Protoss.
Artanis?
Yes, Artanis.
Slot? Yeah. And then finally, if you're playing in a organized environment, make sure that you pick a character that can either help if the enemy team's got burst. Make sure you have someone that can help mitigate burst, because that is probably Garrosh's biggest weakness right now, is just heavy burst on him. And then as well, make sure you have somebody that can initiate for him, because he does not have a lot or much of anything in the way of self-initiate. And so if you can get that Malfurion Roots, if you can get an Artanis swap, if you can get, a Stitches hook, something to allow him to get to the person. Because once he gets on him, he doesn't have a massive amount of trouble sticking to him between possible body check slow, possible ground breaker slow or pullback, Wrecking Ball, what have you. He's got a lot of tools once he's in range, but getting him in range is another issue. And he's very kiteable as far as range characters go. So just be mindful of that.
Yep. That is going to do it for Hero of the Week. If you guys have any other tips, tricks, or builds that you like with Garrosh, or perhaps anything that we, didn't point out that's good as far as other talents, feel free and let us know. But yeah, he is unfortunately really fun to play. It's unfortunately really fun to play. Fantasy issues that people have had, putting those aside, it's a good hero release, I think. Yeah,
I agree. No, it's very, very solid hero release. It'll be interesting to see, because he's still sitting at like an overall 45-ish% win rate. It'll be interesting to see if and what tweaks Blizzard make to him.
Yeah, he's going to be one that's going to, I think they're going to have to be really careful with. And again, it's going to be hard to tell till we see HGC, because in that coordinated team, I think he's going to be fine as a solo tank. But as solo, like you said, with the lack of initiation, it's almost like if I was running Garrosh in Hero League, I would almost want to be running Duo Tank for help with that initiation.
At least another bruiser.
Yeah. So if
something that's got some damage.
If they buff him to where, because they're wanting him to be a solo warrior, if they give him some sort of initiation, that's going to make him pretty darn dangerous when it comes to organized play. But let's go ahead. We got community content this week. We're doing something a little different this week. TBK, I don't know if you want to give explanation. You kind of did in the beginning of this. So.
Yeah. Let's just play it.
Yeah, just go ahead and play it.
Hey guys, this is TBK, and so I wanted to do a little something different for the next few episodes of Community Content Shoutout. So I've been thinking about what I wanted to do, and I landed on just doing some quick interviews with streamers, hero streamers, so you guys can kind of get to know them a little bit and maybe find a hero stream that you didn't know about before. So first off, my very first streamer spotlight community content shout out is going to be Kid Kerrigan. Hey, how you doing?
I'm well.
Good. So to get started, why don't you tell us just a quick little bit about you? Like, how did you get started hero streaming?
So I actually used to play Dota. One of my ex-boyfriends was an amateur player in Dota, so I got really into that. But when I started working full time, the games were just kind of too long. I couldn't find time for it. And then Heroes of the Storm went into alpha because at the time I was playing lots of StarCraft and World of Warcraft and stuff. Of course, I'm like, another Blizzard game? Hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
So I started playing that, and it was so easy to pick up. The games were a lot shorter. It was kind of I felt like I had a lot more control over my play sessions with it. So yeah, I just kind of started streaming it because I just really liked it. I was already streaming just some variety games and stuff, but that particularly I thought was awesome, and kind of trying to find more friends to play with and stuff like that, which is part of why I started streaming in the first place, was to find more people to play with online as well.
Awesome. And Blizzard's been really awesome with their streamers too, even featuring them. Some people may have seen you on the launcher.
Yes.
Now and then. So they have a really cool program with that. So who is your favorite hero as far as I want to win this game? Who are you going to pick?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think a lot of my go-tos now are Vala, I usually go for. My most played are like Zagara, Jaina, and Kerrigan. But those are even from, like, I've been playing them since like alpha, beta and stuff. So they're up there, but then through all the changes and things, I think I've really stuck on Vala lately, and Johanna and Lily. I like carry with Lily. Everyone says that she's bad. I'm like, whatever, dude, eat my dragons.
That's right. And Vala's really never been bad. She's never really dipped down so far that she hasn't been viable.
Yeah,
at least in my
she's
memory.
so versatile for me, so
yeah,
I think those ones are my go-tos.
Awesome. And then finally I have to ask you, where our big question last week was about hero fantasy. And so what hero to you best hits the fantasy, and what hero to you like misses the fantasy the most, in your opinion?
Oh, that's a tough one. As in like hitting the fantasy of what the hero should be.
Yeah, like
in how they
from
play.
your view, like this really feels like I'm playing Thrall, or man, this just doesn't feel like I'm playing Jaina or something.
I think Jaina is actually a good one. Like, that is what she is. She's a frost mage, and that is what it is. Like, she really nails it. As for, I think it's a lot more difficult to make the Overwatch heroes really feel how they should, just because of how different of a game Overwatch is. So, like, I think Lucio does okay because he kind of has that AoE type thing going on. Mm-hmm. D.Va, I'm not so sure sometimes. It's like there is a feel about her that hits on D.Va, but then again, I don't know if I've played enough Overwatch to really understand what her fantasy should be like. So, but another one that really hits it, I think Vala does too. Yeah, for sure.
They've done a really good job with most of their Diablo characters.
Yeah, totally.
Think, as far as
I think especially because they transfer so well.
Mm-hmm.
Even just in the format of the game and
how
the game's presented, so it's a lot easier to get them. And like Zagara, right? Like, she spreads creep and she like fires Bailings at you and stuff. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, no, that's great. So to wrap things up, why don't you tell everybody how they can contact you, what your stream information is, basically anything you want to know so that people can kind of check out your content.
So everywhere, all of my social media is just Kid Kerrigan. So like twitch.tv/Kid Kerrigan, @Kid Kerrigan on Twitter and Instagram. My Snapchat is Kid Kerrigan PD because it wouldn't let me choose Kid Kerrigan. So I was like, whatever, dude. I think my YouTube might be different, but all of my links and stuff you can also find from my Twitch channel information and on my website, kidkerrigan.tv as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this little mini view with
Thanks
me.
for having me.
Yeah. Guys, definitely go check all our content out. Super entertaining. It's a blast to watch. And again, thank you so much for doing this with me as my first one.
Cool.
All right. So that is an awesome little idea TBK had. So let us know what you guys thought about that. If you'd like to see more mini interviews, if there's anybody in particular that you would like us to mini view.
Mini view.
We'll come up with a cool name for that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and if you guys haven't checked Kid Kerrigan out, she runs an awesome stream. It's just a really nice, positive stream to sit back, relax, and enjoy some good heroes. But you also have another good article here on a topic that we have hit on several times, but I think it's one of the biggest topics when it comes to not only heroes but MOBAs.
Yeah, so I linked this in chat. It's going to be in the show notes, lordsofthestorm.libsyn.com. It's entitled From Sub 1000 MMR to Master League. And it's just another one of those it's another one of those posts where the guy's just like, I grinded from, super low to master. But it's actually surprisingly in-depth about how he did it. And some of the suggestions he found along the way. And these are always kind of interest me because we know it's possible to do. But it's a grind. It really is a grind. And so it's just one of those, is this in reach of the average player, right? Mm-hmm. If you think you've got the skill. So I actually asked him how many games and wins over the season or seasons did this end up taking him to grind all the way through. And his answer was 1,600 games, including preseason, 52.6% win rate overall. 1,600 Hero League games to hit this.
That's at a 52% win rate. So that is when it comes to a win rate that you're going to need to hit in order to grow, which is, of course, above 50%. 52.6, that's not bad. That's not unachievable if you're doing everything that you can to include. And it's also worth mentioning that this guy is 34 years old. So one of the things about video games and esports, especially when it comes to the professional scene and the top players, a lot of those people are 16 to 21, 22, young 20s, because of better eyes and better reflexes. Even like just a minuscule bit. Once people start getting older, they just don't have that. So the ways that he approached this to counter that and give him the best odds is just really insightful. And like TBK said, he went really, really in depth. And one of the things I wanted to mention here, because we had the question a few weeks ago about each league having its own meta, and this is someone who's been through all the leagues, and so he's saying in lower leagues, team fighting is a priority. As has been said by multiple people, the way to win here is to treat the game as team deathmatch. If you're the number one grandmaster, you can make all the right calls for grandmaster games, such as soaking when behind talents or avoiding pointless fights, but you will still lose, because your 4 teammates are going to be doing 4v5 team deathmatch. In mid to high leagues, the macro game becomes more important, but team fighting is still the priority. Learning objective and camp timings will provide a significant advantage. And then in higher leagues, both micro and macro are important. You will see or start to see people doing things like completely avoiding the objective in favor of catching up in experience. Team fights will be less individual dependent as ability and ultimate timing and coordination become more noticeable and important. So that's a really big thing, and especially I would totally agree on like the team deathmatch snowballing that happens even in gold. I would say up through gold probably.
And it's really interesting because it can in some ways actually hurt you to have more game knowledge than your current level, because you'll know what the right things to do are. You'll know we should be soaking this lane, we should be getting merc camps at this time, blah blah blah. And that might actually be counterproductive to the level you are playing in. And in some ways, it's better to just get a hero. Like this guy said he used, I believe it was Karazim and Zarya and
Lost Vikings,
interestingly enough, that allowed him to very much control things. It's a healer with damage, or a bruiser that has some support type abilities and good ways to keep themselves alive. Team fight characters. And so it's very interesting to think about. If you do have a lot of game knowledge, if you listen to the podcast, if you watch the HGC, but you're in bronze, silver, gold league, something like that, and this kind of just backs up the claim that sometimes it's better play in these leagues, especially play the characters you're super good with, and then be with the team, ready to team fight, not necessarily playing the macro game to the fullest, because if you're the only one doing it, you're probably going to hurt your team more than you're going to help them.
And again, we get a lot of questions surrounding Hero League, so 100% check this out. The only other thing I want to read directly from this article is another topic we've hit on a lot about MMR Hell. And I think this is an incredible description, an accurate description of kind of what the MMR Hell is in Heroes because of the type of game. He says, you can carry if you are significantly more skilled than the other players. The greater the disparity in skill, the easier it is to carry. For example, in Bronze 5, a Platinum player can carry similarly to a Diamond Plus player. However, in Platinum, a Diamond player may be skilled enough to be the best player, but not enough to carry a victory. The main problem, however, is that the closer you get to your maximum potential, your win rate approaches 50% and the climb gets harder. So while there is a chance to carry in this game, you have to be, ranks above in order to do that for the reasons of each league having its own meta. So just a really, really good take on really this whole process. This is one of the most insightful and I think best articles that we've come across, that TBK's come across, in order to kind of get a grasp on what it takes to climb the ladder.
And at the same time, it reinforces the fact that it's going to be a grind. Like, it's time. 1,600 games is in Hero League alone is no small investment. Now, granted, that's over several seasons, but that's like that's a little over like half the games I've played in total. Because I've almost hit my 3K game mark at this point. And so that's a little over like half of what I've got.
That is
right now, which is insane to think about. That's a lot of games. And he got there finally, but just know that it could take a really freaking long time to get to where you want to go. It's not, at least in the current system, it is just not a fast process. And so I don't know if he started in bronze. I don't know what 1,000 MMR is. He may have started in bronze. He may have started in silver, but 1,600 games over multiple seasons to get to master. It's awesome. It's great he did that, but that's going to either be out of reach for a lot of people or just extremely time consuming. And so you just kind of have to go into it knowing that aspect of it as well.
All right. Let's go ahead and try and knock out a few emails right here as I switch back over. There we go. All right. So first up here we have from Core Zord, which is Core Gaming. If you guys haven't checked out his stuff, question on quick match teams. No mirror matches is cool, but balanced teams is cooler. Call to arms for needed roles in the matchmakers or quests to help. Any other ideas? So, yeah, this is one of the things, and it's along the same lines as now that we have mirror matching. It's how many things what's the best balance of how many things we can put into quick match to give us the best match possible at the same time a quick queue time. So this is also going to be something that's really hard as far as balancing because the meta changes. So what our, thoughts of balanced teams is going to change that. That's going to be really hard for them to create a program to do that without them having to change it a lot. But I can totally understand the fact of like, if you have like an Abathur and a Lost Vikings and then, 2 tanks in a heal, where maybe the other team has 2 tanks, a heal, and then Azul and Sylvanas or something like that. The team fights are going to be much harder for you.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I have as far as other ideas in order to get that, just because.
Well, I think we should approach this in a little bit of a different way, right? I don't think we necessarily need to add more rules to quick match. I think, and this may be what he was trying to get at, is widening the pool for the current matchmaker. So let's say the current matchmaker sees, oh crap, there's not a lot of people queuing as tanks right now. Well, boom, a little call to arms pops up and says, if you queue as a warrior player or a warrior role, then you get 100% bonus XP. Matchmaker sees, oh, there's not a lot of people queuing as support right now. Pops up a call to arms or whatever. It says, if you play a support role right now, you get 100% bonus XP. And this is less about rules, adding rules to the matchmaker, and more about expanding the pool of heroes the matchmaker has to work with to potentially, as a result of that, provide better matches to players from a quick match standpoint. You could also do something, I think they were kind of mentioning it a little bit in our Discord, having a call to arms quest that, say, play 3 call to arms games as a call to arms role or something like that, instead of specific play a warrior game, play a support game, play an assassin game type thing. And that could work as well. But yeah, I think it's more about Blizzard incentivizing you to allow the matchmaker's pool to be expanded rather than adding more rules to quick match in general.
That makes sense. And then, so along those lines, I'll throw in something we have talked about several times. That is being able to queue up in several roles with a couple different heroes, so that you can queue up as the tank, support, and an assassin.
And so technically, apparently that's how the randomizer works right now. Is you can favorite specific heroes you want, whether it's a few tanks, a few support, or whatever, and then click the random button. And as long as you have that setting to where the randomizer just picks from your favorites, then it kind of works like that in the same way. But people really don't know that, or it's not up in your face as much as it needs to be.
Yeah. So, yeah, interesting point. And that'll be, quick match is something that's always going to go through constant changes and stuff in order to try and get us those best matches with still keeping quick queue times. One last question here from Naraki. I honestly do think there's way too much CC in the game nowadays without much of a way of countering them. When I say that, I don't mean skill shots like Kael'thas or Thralls, but they also play a part in it. But mainly stuff like Uthers, which is impossible to avoid and allows the skill shot ones to simply stun lock someone in place till death. I understand that they want to take generic talents out, but that has hurt a lot of the CC problem, and I honestly think that putting in diminishing returns, just like in WoW, would make the game better. Not only would that diminish the stun lock problem to a certain extent, but it would make people think twice or more about how they use their abilities, and that would elevate the skill cap even more. At least in my opinion, and I say that knowing full well that it's mostly hope that these things will go well smoothly, but hey, I can dream, right? So diminishing returns is something that they actually talked about a while ago, whenever the stun meta was in full effect. And I don't remember their exact reasoning for why they didn't want to do diminishing returns, TBK, maybe you remember, but that is what led to them reducing the stun time from abilities like Tyranda's stun, I believe Uther's stun, pretty much most of the stuns in the game.
Yeah. I mean, if you look in the game right now, there are not a ton of point and click stuns currently in the game right now. And those that are there have been, like Greg said, their stun times have been reduced.
Like, I think
usually
it's like
in,
by
in some
half.
form.
Like, Tyranda's
they-
stun, I think, used to be a second and a half. Now it's like 0.75. Like, stun meta.
They hit stuns with the nerf bat
if-
pretty hard
if-
one patch.
Yeah, if you didn't play this heroes like in the stun meta, it's so different. Like, it was just locked down for days.
It was pretty bad. So the biggest reasoning that they've given to not have diminishing returns is that it is very hard to visualize that for the player in the heat of battle. And so, and it's a feel thing, right? It's very hard to show, okay, this person now has diminishing returns on stuns. How much of a diminishing return do they have? How many stuns does it take to have a diminishing return? How much time in between stuns does it take to trigger the diminishing return? And if you can't really display that effectively, the player goes, why did I hit him with my stun and all of a sudden they just walk away? Like, they should have been stunned. What the crap? And so that's one of their biggest things. It's just extremely hard to bring that information across quickly and easily. And we know Blizzard, they hate their visual clutter a little too much, in my opinion. But I digress. That's part of it. I don't think the stuns meta is too bad right now. You can definitely get team comps that can be annoying and still can chain CC to an extent. But you don't see that near as often as you used to.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of in the discussion we had last week on, well, and even with our interview with Nate about them adding in talents and stuff to kind of even counter the stuns more. And then we were talking about countering silences last week. Uther is that great example. I do think that they should look to work in more talents like that for support, because that's a great way. Because, I mean, right now, really the only times, like TBK said, there's very few point-and-click stuns to where, you can just line those stuns up. And even now, again, with the stuns reduced from like half of what they were, it is harder to line those up. So that is kind of in their way how they did the diminishing returns without actually doing it. But it can't, being stun locked can feel bad. So having more talents for when you heal, they get armor for a certain amount of time used for those stuns could definitely help. But I agree. It's not, I don't think it's too bad right now. I think it's in a pretty good spot.
Definitely better than it used to be.
Yeah.
Definitely better than it used to be. But like you said, I'm always up for more variety in talents to allow for more counters of things or more skill-based counters of things.
Yes.
It always is nice because that just adds that extra element of that extra level of skill that you can use to kind of raise yourself up or elevate yourself with a certain hero over other people.
Yeah.
not picking that talent or whatnot.
Yeah, and that's I think the way, because you in this question talked about how you wanted to, or it would elevate the skill cap. I think that's the smarter way to elevate skill cap, is in the counters, to without having to be something that's just really confusing to where in a game, especially like if you're doing Hero League solo and there's no communication, diminishing returns it would do more damage, I think, and cause more frustration than good. So thanks for the questions, guys. If you guys have any other questions, there are a few ways that you can contact us to send those. You can do that in game or our Discord. You can type /join space LOTS in the game. We'll have our Discord in the show notes. Twitter and Twitch, Lords of the Storm, as well as Facebook.com/Lords of the Storm podcast. You can email us feedback or questions, lordsofthestorm@outlook.com. We really do appreciate 5-star iTunes and Stitcher reviews. That's a great way to not only make us more visible to people looking for Heroes podcasts, but also give us honest feedback on the show, even if it's not a 5-star iTunes review, on how we can improve. And if you guys want to support the show, you can do so over at patreon.com/Lords of the Storm. You can also find us individually, myself on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, all those things at Gizmozord, as well as Convert to Raid presents the BattleNet News, which is still a thing, which is Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Central. Multizord, who is not here because he is sick again, you can find him on Twitter at Multizord. And also, if you guys were here before our show, the Cavalry Show, which is the Zord Overwatch podcast, is now doing live shows. They had their first one tonight. So that's live Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Central on twitch.tv/The Cavalry Show. So we will be hosting them each week. So make sure and check that out if you do play Overwatch. TBK, where can you be found?
You can find me on Twitter at TBKZord, twitch.tv/TBKZord. I've been starting to do a little more regular streaming days, Monday nights and Thursday nights, typically Thursdays being Chair League nights. So hopefully should have a game tomorrow night, if possible.
Excellent.
Hopefully.
Well, we want to give a special thanks to our patron producer, Ouroboros Zord, for helping support the show. We really do appreciate it. So get on in there, test out some Garrosh on the build. Let us know what you think. And we will see you all same time, same place, next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Central.
Yep.
Yeah. See you then.
Enough. I shall do no more.